have a mat, push it up against a wall so that we can use that for a few of the exercises later on. And we're going to start out just lying down on our backs. You can have your feet a little bit away from the wall for now. And come on down. Just let your spine be in a neutral position. Just feel the back of your hips, the back of your rib cage, and the back of your skull. Right? You're always welcome to, take any extra padding as needed to make this comfortable for you. We're going to start by just taking the right knee in towards the chest a little bit, and I want you to grab onto the back of your thigh. Maybe you grab a little bit closer to the knee pit, depending on your mobility here. I want you to send that foot up to the ceiling, and just, you'll feel a little bit of a stretch through the back of the leg right away. But what we're going to work on is keeping our shin very, very still as we start to slowly draw a circle with the toes moving in towards the center, towards the wall, and then all the way out and back to where you started. And as you are doing this circle, it is very important. You could even take your hands there if it's available for you to reach. Very important for you to start to stabilize the shin so that we are really kind of observing the true range of motion available in the ankle. And as your toes kind of move through center, they move away from you. As they start to come back to the starting position, I really want you to see if you can fan all of the toes out nice and wide. So we're already starting to tap into as much of this toe spreading as we can. We've talked a little bit about how important unlocking the foot is for health up the rest of the chain being ankle, knee, hip, right? Really up into your spine as well. It's all very connected to the mobility and access you have to essentially unlocking and locking your foot. We're going to reverse that circle, go out to the right, fan your toes across center, move them towards the midline, and then do a nice unfurl as you start again. Again, you can take those hands to the shin, maybe the side of your knee, and just observe if there's any kind of movement side to side in the shin, any rotating in and out, and see if you can just steady that, moving purely from the right ankle. Okay, about two more here. And after you finish that next circle, you're going to take your right foot, almost like you're about to do a figure four stretch. You could certainly do this seated if it felt like a little bit too far to reach for you here. But I just want you to make a fist with your opposite hand being your left at this time. And then you're going to take your knuckles to the very bottom of that foot. And I want you to just apply some pressure there and just kind of rub up and down from heel to ball of the foot, really just starting to stimulate the nerve endings under the sole of the right foot. So it starts to become more awake, more alive, and more active, right? You can do just kind of rubbing up and down or side to side. You're also welcome to kind of add in some taps here. Right? Again, trying to spread the toes out as you do so. We want the foot as alive and as mobile as we can, very mobile and strong. Right? So after we take that foot back across, I want you to just step the foot down, and then we're going to do that all on the other side. Left knee folds in, you grab onto what feels accessible to you, and then you start to draw little circles inward. Okay, again, steadying the shin, and just trying to become as interested in this exercise as you can, right? We've all probably been exposed to some form of this in our lives. How we're doing it, how we're actually following through on this exercise may not be as beneficial to us as it could be. So I want you to, again, feel the shin, very, very stable, and just find this deep circling inside of that left ankle. When you come up against those sticky spots, those edges, try to kind of slowly move through them like you're clearing out the cobwebs in your ankle, right? No need to just bulldoze through this. It's very, very, very impactful to slow down and feel every part of this, including the parts that are uncomfortable. We'll go the other way. Okay. Spreading out through the toes, just starting to think wide through the midfoot, through the toes, right? Allowing that foot to take up as much space as possible. When you really keep that shin still, you might notice new parts of the shin, parts of the lower leg kind of lighting up. It might feel a little fiery right away, right? Just doing this movement that may feel familiar in a more intentional way. Okay, last one here, and then we'll just take our brief cross, left ankle over the right thigh. You're going to take your fist, right, and just rub up and down. Again, you could totally do this seated, whatever feels good for you, but just stimulating the bottom of the foot. Okay. Rub side to side, up and down, all the good things. And maybe a tap. Cool. When you're done with that, go ahead and start just making your way up a little closer to the wall. So I'm going to scoot my hips forward and land the feet on the wall so that they are about hip width distance apart, and it's an approximate 90-degree angle in the knees. Okay. We're going to have our toes parallel facing up to the sky, and I just want you to start bringing your hands down to the front of the pelvis. You're going to place the heels of your hands right across your hip bones and your fingertips right across your pubic bone. So that's the bone kind of at the very, very bottom of the front of your pelvis, just between the inner thighs. Once you've found that position, we're going to start to rock the pelvis forward, just tilting it towards the feet. And then you're going to rock the pelvis back, tilting it up towards your navel. Okay, and as you're doing this, I want you to see if you can keep the thighs very, very steady, rolling the pelvis forward and back like it was a ball, right? We're not engaging any muscles here. We're not clenching. We're not really activating at all. We're just allowing the bones of our pelvis to tip forward, the top of the hips tip forward towards our legs, and then the top of the hips tip back towards the floor. Okay, so you get this nice lengthening across the front of the abdominals as you tilt forward. Then you get this nice length across the lower back as you tilt back. I want you to just find your neutral, so that space in between the arch and the curl, where your hip bones and your pubic bone are just relatively level. This is just going to be a starting place. Hands are going to come by your sides, and I want you to do a couple things here before we even move. Press your feet into the wall, spread out your toes, and really start to drag the heels towards the floor. They're not going to move, so it's not going to be like this happens, right? It's going to be you pushing the feet into the wall and then energetically pull the heels down. And I want you to pull the heels down enough that you feel something happening in the backs of your thighs, in those hamstrings. Okay, if you don't feel anything, got to pull the heels down a little bit more. Okay, so once you found that nice pull down with the heels, you're going to tilt the pelvis back, and you're going to roll up just a very small amount, maybe like 2-3 inches of your spine, peel off the mat. I want you to squeeze, take your fist, just put it between the tops of your inner thighs, squeeze in, like you're really, really trying to push both thighs into each side of your hand. You're going to release the hand, but keep the squeeze of the inner thighs. Check in with those heels, make sure they're still dragging down the wall. And then just start to find this little tiny shift where your left glute starts to move down towards the floor as your right shin pulls forward towards the ceiling. And then you're going to switch the legs. Right glute goes down, left shin moves forward. It's this very subtle, very small looking from the outside hip shift. This is an essential movement. This is what ideally our hips are doing during gait, during walking. But for many of us, it's not necessarily happening. It can get pretty locked up in the pelvis from just, many of our lifestyles. And yeah, they really are designed to shift, move like this with a lot of ease. So if it feels very unfamiliar or uncomfortable, it's okay. Just tell your body this is a safe thing for me to do. I am consciously pulling those inner thighs into that imaginary fist. We're still pretending it's there. And I am consciously dragging my heels down the wall the entire time. And you just allow this to be a slow and controlled movement, very, very subtle. Okay, we're going to do about 4 more shifts here. 2, 1. You shift the hips back to center, drag the heels down the wall even more than you think you can. And right here, you're going to push the balls of the feet down into the wall like you're trying to push on a gas pedal, right? You're going to push into the balls of the feet and lift the heels up as though they were stuck to the wall, right? So we're lifting with a little resistance, and then you're going to squish the heels back down. You pull the heels up, you lower the heels down. Now, if I were to just do this, right? See how this is so easy? It would still be work, right? It would still be something, but we can do it, right? A little bit, we can get a little more bang for our buck, let's put it that way, right? So when you lift the heels, drive the balls of the feet down, pull them up, and really get into some deep lower leg strengthening, right? Make it a little bit harder for yourself to lift off the wall. You're going to tap into some very, very deep calf work. All right, we're going to do 2 more like this. And after the next one, you're going to lower the heels and just articulate your spine back down. Release the hips and just give yourself a little rock side to side. Now, if that exercise ever feels like too much in your lumbar spine, in the lower part of your back, make the lift of the hips much smaller. It could be just a minuscule, like not even an inch. It doesn't even have to be, as long as you are in that nice posterior tilt of the pelvis and you're dragging the heels down the wall. You barely have to lift the hips up at all for this one. Okay, so just a little note. We're going to roll off to the side. You're going to start to press yourself up to a standing position. All right, we're up. We're going to take this left foot here, outside foot, a few inches away from the wall. You're going to take the right outer thigh, outer knee, push it into the wall. Now, the shin, kind of where you're comfortable, right? If you feel okay with it up in a more 90-degree angle, that's awesome. If you need a little bit closer to the ground, that's great. Sometimes it's nice to kind of push the ball of the foot into this molding if that feels okay on your toes, just if you need a little leverage point. But either way, the foot is up off the ground and pressing into the wall. The outside leg is bent. Okay. What I want you to do is start to push your hips back. So if I'm showing you from the side here, it's going to look like your hips move back. The tops of the pelvis, the tops of the hip bones rather, have tipped forward. So we are not like this. We are not in cat spine territory. We have hinged right at the hips to find this position. The spine has not changed. It's still straight. It's just tipped forward, right? Contain that neutral. Now, once you find that hinge, appropriate amount, you are going to drive your left foot into the floor. And you're going to push both thighs away from each other. So you are trying to push the outside of your right thigh and hip into the wall. You're trying to push the outside of your left thigh and hip away. Hands could be in a prayer, could be on your legs, really up to you, but we're holding this position. We're just going to stay here. And even though the position does not move, the amount that you press ideally is kind of increasing. So you're seeing if you can press out a little bit more, press out a little bit more. You get the idea. Now, check in with that outside of your left glute. Notice if it's wanting to really clench and kind of, contract in on this. I want you to place your hand there if you're really starting to feel that. And just encourage the back of this hip to spread wide, right? I like to do this little bit of kind of swiping. Our hands are very, very important to proprioception and how we feel things in the body. So if you want this tissue to widen, kind of nice to encourage it to widen by just using your hands, right? They have so many nerve endings that can help us to feel things in new ways. This is so much. All right, we're going to do this for about 5 more seconds. Okay, and then come out of it. That's intense. So good for us though. Nice isometric hold. Now we're going to work the same leg. It's going to be in front. The right foot is going to be behind with the heel a little bit lifted off the floor. You are going to be not too far back. We're not living here for this one. We're also not going to be right next to the left foot. We're going to find this little kind of place right in the middle. Okay, so right knee's just a tiny bit behind the left. Now, we're going to load the left foot, bend into the knees, and reach the hips back. Now, see how my shin is not a straight line. We are going to create a positive angle in the shin. I want you to load more through the front of the foot and the arch of the foot. So, so key to training the glutes really, really, really well. Okay. When you found that load into the front of the foot, you're going to hinge forward just to a place where it's truly from the pelvis. None of this. We're going to take the pelvis now and just start to turn it open to the right a little bit and then back down. Okay, I'll show it from this side so you can get a different view. We turn and open and then we turn and close. Notice how this thigh here does not really move. Okay, in this position, what we're trying to achieve is the ability of the pelvis to rotate around the thigh bone. Sometimes we try to rotate the thigh bone inside of the pelvis. Sometimes we do this. Both very key. We want both of them to be functioning well, both of those pathways, for really strong, healthy hips. Okay? Now, that same leg is in front. You should be facing your wall still. We're going to take the hands to the wall. We're going to send the right leg back. So instead of it being on the floor this time, it's up in the air. It doesn't have to be high. I'd prefer it's not. Your left foot is far enough away from the wall that your arms can be straight and that you can still have that positive shin angle. Not too much here. That means your heel's coming off the floor, but not too far back. So just sort of play around till you get that kind of similar angle you had on the previous exercise right here. Left foot is pushing down. Right leg is up. You're going to send the right leg back. You're going to turn the front of the thigh down towards the floor to find more of an internal rotation. Then you're going to start the same thing. You're going to bring your left hand or right hand to your right hip. And you're going to open the hips up to the right, and then you're going to turn the hips back down, and this time a little bit more towards your left inner thigh. We open up, we rotate, and then we come back to that internal rotation. Okay, this movement is starting, it's initiating at the pelvis. So don't let the legs get too carried away. We want this deep rotation happening from the pelvis, and then the movement kind of follows through the rest of the body. Okay. Still trying to keep that left thigh relatively fixed. You might notice a little more movement here in this variation. That's okay. We're not looking for perfection, but we're looking for awareness. Last two. Okay. Step that foot down. Nice. We're going to take that left heel forward. Turn out your right leg just a little bit. We're just going to kind of release it out. You're going to dig that left heel into the floor. You're going to keep digging it into the floor, almost like you were pulling it back. You're going to keep pulling it back as you start to flat back forward, just getting a nice flush down the back of your left thigh, and then rise up. We'll do that a few times, pushing the heel down, dragging it back, and returning for 2. Same hinging of the hips, folding from here, opening through the back. Nice. And when you come out of it, take a sec. We're going to do it all on the other side, starting with that isometric hold, facing the back. Well, I'll face the back. You're going to take your left leg up against the wall. Right foot's on the floor. You're going to bend into the right knee. You're going to hinge at your hips. And again, spread that right glute. Make sure it's not gripping in at that upper glute, that piriformis space. Open the back of the hip by sticking your tailbone out a little bit more. Okay. Left hand, wherever it feels supportive, press the left thigh and hip into the wall as you push your right thigh away. Right? Imagine your thighs pushing out. Imagine your pelvis pushing out from side to side. We're holding this position, but it's an active position in that you're continuously trying to see if you can push that leg into the wall a little bit more. When you feel the temptation to grip into that right hip or clench or curl into yourself, push into the bottom of the right foot more. Let the toes spread. Let the foot really support you here. Okay, pressing out. See if you can go a little bit more with that leg on the wall. For 3. For 2. And last one. Come out of it. Okay. That leg that you're just standing on is going to be in front. So right leg in front. Left heel a little bit behind us. Right? We're back in that hinge land. Pelvis, top of the pelvis, tips forward, bottom of the pelvis reaches back. Right? When you find that, you're going to start to open up your pelvis away from the standing leg, loading into the ball of that right foot, and then you're going to rotate it down and repeat. Open up. Okay, feel how when you open the hips up, the right side of your hip starts to contract and shorten a little bit. And when you turn back out, the outside of your right hip starts to lengthen. Allow that to happen. It's a shortening on the way up, a nice lengthening on the way down. Okay, pushing the right foot away from you as you open the hips up. Imagine it could push down to the floor below you. And then back to center. Last 2. Cool. We take it up. We bring it to the wall. Again, hands on the wall about shoulder height. The right foot is at a distance that your heel can be comfortably down. Should not feel like too much on the calf here. It does step forward a little bit. Your left leg goes up into the air. I'm going to back up a little bit so I can get more on the ball of the foot. Send the leg back. Find that reach. Push from the palms of your hands through your armpits and reach in the opposite direction with your toes. You're going to start to turn and open up the pelvis. I'm going to take left hand to the hip. And then you're going to rotate the pelvis down and keep rotating it until it turns into your right inner thigh. Push down through the right foot to open up. Rotate, rotate, resisting on the way down. Okay, it's that same thing here. You're feeling outside of the right hip contracting on the way up, and you're feeling it lengthen on the way down. Good. Trying to spread wide, wide, wide through that right foot. Let all the toes spread. Let the arch of the foot melt down. Very good. We've got it for 3 more here. Nice. And when you come out of that, we'll step the left foot back, right heel forward, flex the toes up, dig your right heel down, pull it back. So it's this push down and then drag back as you hinge forward and come up. Nice, we've got it twice more. Excellent. And then when you're ready, just stand up with your feet about hip width distance apart. Move to the back of your mat, arms by your sides. Start to just nod your chin, yes. Start to peel down through that spine, one bone at a time, just a slow and controlled roll down. You'll find the mat. You'll walk out, just a little downward dog. Allow the head to just drape forward and press through the fingers really, really firmly. We're going to pick up one heel as we press down the opposite, and then you're going to switch. And I want you to feel that same thing that we worked on when the feet were on the wall, where we're trying to lift the heel up with a bit of resistance and then press down with a bit of resistance. So it's not just kind of like a little casual pedal like this, but we're really seeing if we can kind of tap into that deep, deep fascia that lives within the foot. Really waking it up as we push the ball of the foot down and then resist to lower. Okay, like you are moving through the thickest honey that you could imagine with your heels, right? You've got it for 4. 2, 1. We'll have a rest down with our knees. And then I want you to just take the toes, do a little swish over to the left side of your mat. Hands are going to walk a little bit past your shoulders. And then I want you to really exaggerate kind of sending that tailbone up. So it's going to want to go down. We kind of know this. Just a natural thing that happens for most people. Right? See if you can send the tailbone up and really spread into the back of the hips. Rock your hips back. Think of just moving them straight back past the right heel and then come forward. It should be a really nice spread for the back of the pelvis. Right? Some of us will feel that more on one side than the other. I feel it more on the left side when I go back here, but it's not wrong to feel more on the other. Right? Depending on where you have restrictions, maybe more in the internal or the external rotation of your hips. A nice cool down, just slowing down your breath, really spreading into the back of the hip as you push back towards your feet. Last 2. And then come forward and swish the feet over to the right. Send your tailbone up. Keep it up as you push the hips back and release forward. Okay? Again, it's going to be tempting to move into that cat spine territory. I want you to skip it for this, not because it's wrong, but it will change the amount that we're able to spread the back of the hip if we round the lumbar spine. We're not going to get as much of a hinge when we push the hips back. We're not going to get as much of that spread across the back of the pelvis. So that's why, right? None of these positions are ever right or wrong. It's just contextual. Okay, last 2. Okay, and then last thing here, we're just going to give our toes a little tuck under. You're going to press back onto your hips. And I want you to notice when you go for this little bit of a foot opener that the heels are not winging too far away from each other. That can be a little bit much for the outer ankles. I want you to pull the heels in, press into the bottom side of your toes. See if you can use your fingers to take your pinky toes, your outer toes, and just kind of tuck them under too. Okay, and really press like you're trying to do a calf raise here. Push the tips of the toes down into the mat as you just hold this stretch. Right, allow the toes to open, allow the bottoms of the feet to open. Just take some nice deep breaths. If that feels like too much for, for the time being, you can always reach your hands forward and kind of ease off of it a little. Mhm. And then no rush at all. When you're ready to come out of that, you'll untuck the toes, have a seat back. All right. You're all done with this lower body joint health series. Please let me know if you have any questions, and happy to provide any modifications that you need. And yeah, until next time.